it has become incredibly clear that Donald Trump's effort to deregulate, but really more so destroy our federal government, has been horrible. His freeze on federal funds has caused chaos across the country and hurt countless lives. But Donald Trump doesn't care about that. But what he will care about is the fact that White House emails absolutely humiliating him were leaked when their system was compromised, because when Donald Trump decided to fire everybody, that includes people who do oversight of the communication throughout the federal government, Donald. So not too good for you, and we are going to get into those humiliating emails. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. It really means a lot to me now. Before we get into Donald Trump and the hilarious and humiliating emails that just came out, I want to check out Senator Chris Murphy, who appeared on CNN and called out the deregulation and destruction of our federal government that Donald Trump is doing and how it is hurting Americans.
What he is saying is that the only people who are competent to run anything in this country are white men. That's what he's saying. He's saying that because the FAA has hired women and black people, that our nation's safety is at risk. It's kind of incredible that a president of the United States can say that. But let's examine why he's saying it. Why did he come out so quickly to try to attack women and black people for ruining the FAA? He did that because he is very vulnerable. He has some big questions to answer because the FAA has been in chaos, in crisis, since he took over. Elon Musk, his co-president, forced out the FAA administrators. So for the last week, we have been leaderless at the FAA. We have had no one in charge of the FAA. Trump fired, upon taking office, the entire FAA Safety Advisory Board. He spent the last week trying to push federal employees out the door, including people at the FAA, trying to bully them into accepting offers to resign. And so we got reports that the control tower was not normal on the night of the crash. Well, that stands to reason because the FAA has been in meltdown since Trump took over. He knows that he would have to answer for that. So instead of actually explaining why he left the FAA leaderless and without any direction, in chaos, he's blaming black people and blaming women who work at the FAA without any evidence. Of course, he has no evidence that that's true because it's not true. And, who knows? Let's see what the real reason is here, but this could be a cover-up.
Could Donald Trump's focus on ripping institutions apart without any care or real cause, doing it in this real immediate fashion, without any warning, without anyone's ability to prepare, is incredibly scary. And it is what is leading to these disasters that we are seeing all across the country, including Donald Trump's complete ambivalence towards how we think about air traffic oversight. Yes, Donald, you are now responsible for two devastating plane crashes that he doesn't really seem to care about. He just wants to talk about DI and lie for some reason. But of course, like I said, when things start to get personal for Donald Trump, then he starts to care. So I think he's going to care about this story right here. 13,000 federal employees receive abusive email and comm system exploit. Tired of working for a complete C-word, a whopping 13,000 federal employees reported receiving an abusive email on Thursday after a new broadcast system was quickly exploited in an email with the subject header "Resign all 13,000 federal employees of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration" reportedly received the abusive message, which read, "Aren't you tired of working for a complete Seward? I'm sorry this happened to us," responded NOAA Deputy Director of Communications in a memo to staff. "I will report it." The incident demonstrated how easy it is to exploit a new broadcast system set up by the Trump administration. This month goes to show how fast this new comm system was cobbled together. No security or screening on this address, an NOAA employee told journalist Ken Klippenstein, who broke the news. So the safety and security that Donald Trump was promising to bring to our federal government, that, of course, was always a lie. We knew that was a lie. It's gone out the window pretty quickly, and I'm pretty sure that specific word that I'm not going to say was certainly referring to the guy in the Oval Office. And although I don't love that word, I might choose a different word to describe Donald Trump. I think the point that they're getting at is it's not wrong. They're not wrong about Donald Trump because he's horrible. That's all he's been throughout the beginning of his president. See, we told people this, like, it's hard for me to keep saying it. I hope it is some stress reliever to you. Do you know what it actually does? Kind of make me feel better to do the "we told you so" bit, but it still hurts to see the devastation he's causing. I don't want people to have their lives upended by the disastrous decisions of Donald Trump. It's part of the reason I voted for Kamala Harris, so she could secure safety and dignity for people and their lives, so that we could build a better country for everybody, a more equitable country for everybody. But no, Donald Trump is going after Meals on Wheels because that's the big threat. That's the big cut off their funding. Those sponges who want to eat, he's horrible. And we have to focus on the story because I feel like as MAGA does, they're flooding the zone. Steve Bannon's favorite phrase, flooding the zone. So we'll move on from this, but we can't. And someone who did great reporting on just how impactful Donald Trump's federal funding freeze is, it's Rachel Mano. I want to check out what she had to say.
Across all 50 states of this country, by just announcing that they were stopping all the things the government does, all the things the government funds. And, I mean, you could see it, the effects of this ripple out across the country. Columbus, Ohio, Columbus Dispatch. Millions in funding at risk as Columbus nonprofits scramble to deal with Trump pause. The Oregon Capitol Chronicle, Oregon officials scrambling to respond to Trump order freezing many federal funds. In Alaska, the Anchorage Daily News, catastrophic for a state like ours. Alaska governments and nonprofits react to federal grant funding freeze. Florida, the Miami Herald, confusion in Miami over federal grant freeze. Channel 10 in Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade officials very concerned about federal funding freeze. Idaho grant recipients scrambling for clarity after federal freeze. Nebraska officials assessing impact of very concerning Trump funding freeze order. Illinois shut out of Medicaid as Trump enacts temporary freeze on federal funds. Trump order puts $700 million in grants on pause for Louisiana schools. Maine housing authorities can't access funds after Trump's federal grants freeze. So the bad news is bad, right? This is them dismantling the government. And it's not because they think there's a nice, smaller government in there somewhere that they're trying to find. This is them dismantling and trying to get rid of the American system of government. That's the bad news. The good news is they're not all that good at this. And we saw that today in the inexplicable, unlawyered, clumsy language of this two-page order to stop all federal funding. That order directed, for example, that the Green New Deal funding must stop. The Green New Deal is a years-old piece of proposed legislation that never actually passed. The inexplicability, the sort of bumper sticker style language of the stop all the funding order is why so many of the initial headlines about the impact of this today focused on the confusion, the lack of clarity, nobody really having any idea what exactly the Trump administration was shutting down. And that was true in blue states, that was true in purple states, that was true in red states. As members of Congress and governors and former government officials and members of the press started putting it together, started circulating lists of all the things that this Trump order was shutting down, the White House themselves appeared to be fairly bewildered by the news that this was, in fact, the stuff that they were shutting down. Like, really? We're shutting down veterans' homeless shelters? We are? We're shutting down meat and poultry inspections? We are? We're shutting down school breakfasts, school lunches. We're shutting down home heating assistance. It's January 28th. We're shutting down housing assistance, including rent vouchers, which is how people pay their rent. First of the month when the rent is due is Saturday. We're shutting down food stamps. The SNAP program, millions and millions and millions of Trump voting Americans get SNAP. Millions of Americans of all stripes. The WIC program, that's food specifically for pregnant and postpartum women and their infants. Childcare, Head Start, suicide hotlines, child abuse investigations, supporting law enforcement, rape crisis centers. Medicaid, which is health insurance for millions of Americans, including especially disabled people, old people, and, oh, by the way, it covers 40% of all births in America. And this isn't stuff that they were like proposing to not reauthorize or like asking Congress to cut. They said that money was cut off as of today.
We have to keep hammering them and hammering them and hammering them and hammering them. We have to point out these examples. We need to make clear to people how Donald Trump is directly impacting them. You wanted prices to go down. Boy, are you getting the opposite of that with Donald Trump? It could not be farther from what people allegedly voted for, and we got to make that case. That's on us. That is on us every day until the midterms. That is on us. And it's certainly what we're going to be doing on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.